So the 237 leaks are out, and I don't really want to waste you guys' time, so huge thanks to Miyamura for the leaks, of course. As the chapter begins, it says Kashimo enters the battlefield along with one more player, who's standing aloof on a massive lump of ice. And to no one's surprise, it's none other than Urame, but then another player arrives to challenge Urame, and it's none other than Kenji Hikari. And I'm just glad that Urame can't interrupt Kashimo's fight, man. Like, think of the luck Kashimo would have if Urame just interrupted the fight that he's been waiting, like literally 2 lifetimes for. Anyways, Hikari said he made a promise, so he can't let Urame live. He then activates his domain expansion as Urame activates their ice formation. And it says that Hikari's domain captured Urame in it, but the boulder of ice Urame had continued to fall. After it suddenly evaporates, Kashimo notices that it was something delivered to Sukuna. And we see in the next page that it's the cursed weapon that Yorozu constructed, the cursed tool Kamatoke, which was created through a binding vow of death. Okay, so yeah, this is wild, but I'm gonna save my thoughts, for after the chapter because so much has already happened. So yeah, let's just continue. Sukuna launches an electric attack on Kashimo with his cursed weapon, but coincidentally, Kashimo's cursed energy has made him resistant to electricity, and we see Kashimo just tanking the blow. He then asks Sukuna, did you become the strongest, or were you born as the strongest? A very good question indeed. Sukuna replies that he doesn't know because he was an unwanted child. Kashimo asks, how does Sukuna interact with others without knowing weakness, or how did he show affection or mercy? Because Kashimo says he couldn't do so because he saw all humans as just a piece of dirt. And Kashimo asks Sukuna to teach him if strength is to be alone and find a place where you can properly show your powers. Is it the punishment of the strong people? And basically what Kashimo is asking Sukuna is if being alone comes with being the strongest. In the next page, Sukuna calls Kashimo an extravagant and says even Gojo was the same. Sukuna then taps his head with the weapon and calls Kashimo to fight him. Thus, Kashimo versus Sukuna begins. Kashimo tries to land a hit on Sukuna using his staff, but Sukuna blocks it with his weapon. And look, I'll just apologize in advance because I probably will butcher some of these names, techniques and stuff if I haven't already. Anyways though, moving on, Kashimo then moves back and activates his cursed technique, Genju Kohasaku, which translates to Phantom Beast Amber. It then says after landing a punch on Sukuna's face, Kashimo loads a breathe type attack and blasts it at Sukuna. We then get the narrator explaining Kashimo's cursed technique. Kashimo's cursed technique allows him to remake his body to blast any kind of attack, which Kashimo makes from his cursed energy. And we see Kashimo's whole body is just covered in electricity and he just looks sick, honestly. But continuing the chapter, it says Kashimo manages to land another punch. His cursed technique enhances his agility, and the waves that he blasts evaporates anything on touch. But Kashimo surpasses the human body to make these things happen. Thus, once his cursed technique ends, Kashimo's body will break. And yeah, a lot of people, including myself, predicted that it would be like a transformation kind of cursed technique. But one thing that's crazy is that there's no binding vow, mentioned here. So it is interesting to wonder if Kashimo's technique has always been this strong, or, he just made this cursed technique and just never used it ever. But moving on with the chapter, the narrator then begins explaining that Sukuna actually does have a method of reviving his body, and it actually doesn't use RCT. But it then says that Sukuna had intentionally halted it. We then see as Kashimo is about to attack Sukuna, Sukuna then transforms into his original body, as the last page of the chapter shows us a fully reincarnated and healed Sukuna. As the narrator says, the transformation of the reincarnation has been restarted. End of chapter. Okay, yeah, so very hype chapter. We finally get the beginning of Kashimo versus Sukuna, as well as Hikari versus Urame, which for some reason some people actually predicted. One thing I do want to say regarding the Sukuna versus Gojo fight now is just that if Gege didn't make it clear that Sukuna was holding back last chapter, then he definitely did this chapter. I'm not even gonna lie, I didn't think Yorozu's gift would be, relevant right now, but to think that it's a cursed tool, which we thought wasn't even possible, yeah, that's actually wild. And the fact that Sukuna always had a way of getting his old body back, and not only get his body back, but have a completely healed body at that. And look, I don't know if his cursed energy is replenished, which it probably is, let's be honest, but the fact remains that Sukuna didn't have to go through any other loops to get his body back, meaning that throughout him and Gojo's fight, he could have always just got a new body, and more importantly, replenish cursed energy. And guys, that is insane to actually think about. Gege, what are you doing? Sukuna is getting so powerful by the chapter, and to be real with you, I feel like they're just gonna have to jump this dude. Like, at this point, there is no way that anyone can defeat Sukuna. We really only have Kashimo, and let's be honest, he's on a timer right now, and once that timer goes off, he's cooked. But look, I don't want to make it seem like, I'm complaining at all. This was an amazing chapter, 9 out of 10 for sure. Being able to see Kashimo's curse technique was, really good stuff. And it's really interesting actually because, like I said earlier in the video, there was no binding vow mentioned. So while I'm not surprised that, you know, it was a transformation type of curse technique, I am surprised that there was no binding vow. And that's really only because it implies that he's never really ever used this curse technique. And obviously, you know, it makes a lot of sense. He's stronger, faster, you know, the waves obliterate everything. It's just ridiculous to think that, you know, Kashimo went his whole life without a curse technique and he was still the strongest. And just so you guys know, I'm pretty sure Sukuna was forced into the transformation due to Kashimo's strength and speed. So Kashimo is indeed a contender. This won't just be like, you know, a wash or like, you know, a 2-chapter thing. Both of these fighters have win conditions. And I don't know if you guys realized it, but what happens to Megami now? Because if Sukuna has his original body, does that just mean that Megami is gone now? Because, you know, while I can't really show you, it really does just look like, you know, Sukuna just transformed. I don't know if that implies that, you know, he's in his original body or Megami is still the host. You know, I don't know what that means, but it kind of looks like Megami is just gone. Which, if that is the case, man, that's just rough, but, you know, what can you do? I really just want to hold out hope, you know, until someone actually says that Megami can't be saved. But, man, as these chapters go on, man, it really doesn't seem likely. Only thing I can say is, you know, keep your fingers crossed. Obviously, you know, the students still want to save Megami, so it's not completely out of reach, you know. I do want to say that putting the Megami stuff aside for now, because, you know, I'm not trying to go into all these theories and stuff. I think it's pretty interesting how Sukuna doesn't really answer Kashimo, because while we may get Sukuna's past, you know, in a future chapter or something, it is pretty interesting the philosophy that Kashimo is talking about, how, you know, the strongest people, the strongest sorcerers seem to be the loneliest. And it really seems like Sukuna knows exactly what Kashimo is talking about, but he's just really over it. You know, instead of some detailed answer, Sukuna just tells Kashimo that, you know, all three of them are the same, him, Kashimo, and Gojo, as if to say it doesn't really matter because, you know, no one will really understand anyway. Only way they will understand each other is by fighting. Like, I don't really think I fully understand it yet, but what I will say is this is some amazing writing. Moving on to something, you know, that was kind of overlooked, and that is Urame versus Hikari. Now, I don't know if I missed it or not, I probably did, but who exactly did Hikari make this promise to? Not that it really matters because, you know, Urame has to die, but I do wonder if he made it to like Gojo or Kirara or, you know, even someone else. Anyways though, this is going to be a good fight to see. With Ice being, you know, Urame's curse technique, I could actually see how they could beat Hikari. So I hope people don't just think that this is going to be a no diff or anything. This will most likely be a very hard fight for Hikari. But then again, I really wouldn't care if Urame got packed up. I'm sure a lot of people was under the impression that if Urame had died, you know, with Gojo's attack, no one would have cared. But yeah, that's about it for me. If there's something that you think I missed or something like that, you know, just comment down below. Keep in mind that, you know, this isn't a review video, so I'm not really going into details on purpose. Not until, you know, we get official scans or something, but that's when I'll really start making theories and, you know, speculating on things. But yeah, very rich chapter to be honest. There actually was a good amount of things that happened, but it's almost 4 a.m. here, so I'm going to end it here. You guys have a good day or night. Make sure you like, subscribe, you know, all the good stuff, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.